They may sound nuts, but so do the Wright brothers. Now, here's Flieger and Briggs.
Welcome to It's Just Sports. We are Flieger and Briggs on 12-Ounce Sports. Just want to take a moment before we get started to tell you about 12-Ounce Sports. Now that the action's officially back on, 12-Ounce Sports is your home for the best live talk shows covering all aspects of the sporting world and live game broadcasts with Zingo TV. Adding 12-Ounce Sports to their long list of channels, you can now catch our show and all the others on Zingo TV, channel 761. All you got to do is download Zingo TV and use a promo code 120Z when signing up. It's that simple. Be sure you check out our latest blogs and podcasts as well on 12OunceSportsRadio.com. And Mr. Flieger, we are back on It's Just Sports one more time.
Whoop-de-doo, absolutely. So you can check everything your boys have to offer over at Asylum Football on the tweeters, AsylumFantasySports.com for all the show archives if you just can't get enough of this dreck. And, of course, if you want to be a part of the show, it's just sports123 at gmail.com. You can email and interact directly with the new svelte Rick Briggs all of a sudden. It's just as angry, just a lot less of him recently, I've noticed.
Yeah, I have, and thanks to you.
Well, of course.
I mean, I don't
freaking miracle
like
worker.
to say that all that often, but, you know, I have to say, I mean, you were the first one that became svelte between the two blobs that were us a few months ago.
I haven't worn a shirt since May. You're welcome, ladies.
Yeah, I mean, he's proud of himself, and he should be. How much weight have you lost, Rick? Let's be honest. And you started, what, January, was it?
Yeah, 40-ish pounds, I'd say.
Okay. I started the third week of June, and I have lost 30 and feel a ton better. I mean, tell you, it's I don't know if it's true or not, but I read somewhere for every extra pound that you carry, it's 4 pounds of pressure on your joints.
Now, to be fair, you weren't putting a lot of pressure on your joints before as you were just sitting around slugging beer and eating trans fats.
But when you have to get up
and
and go to the bathroom to get rid of the beer, I mean, you know, it kind of aches sometimes,
well,
you know.
Well, certainly. Well, it's good that you were still getting up to go to the bathroom, I guess. I wasn't certain that was occurring. and the good news is, while Alejandro isn't bragging about his weight loss.
And he doesn't look svelte like we do.
With one shave, he could lose 15 pounds.
At least.
Yeah.
What would have to happen?
Look at your microphone now.
Oh,
there you go.
Sorry, I'm getting away from the mic again. I'm going
Yes.
to turn it. Look at that.
There you go. Amazing.
What was Willie Nelson offered by, like, Gillette? Was it like $1 million to shave?
Are you going to tell me you wouldn't shave for $1 million?
For $1 million, yeah.
You would shave for $7
And
a
22
six-pack.
cents.
Wait, how many pack?
6. Or, you know, your pre-dinner cocktail.
I was going to say
as you generally call it.
$7 and a 12
I wonder
pack.
how much Billy Gibbons will be offered to shave.
He was offered before Willie Nelson, and I think it got up to like $2 or $3 million.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
So you're like a beard trivia expert. Give us more beard trivia.
I guess sadly, yeah, I am.
More beard trivia. The floor is yours.
There was a brewer, I think it's Stone Brewery out in California.
Of course it's a brew.
Well, of course. Why not?
He was trying to brew a beer based off of the yeast collected from his wild, naturally occurring yeast that occurred in his beard.
Nice.
Yeast occurs in your beard?
Yeast is everywhere.
So he wanted to make beard beer?
Yeah, when you put it that way, beard beer.
Did he do it?
I think he did, but it was a small batch that the company didn't release. It was just like for those.
Do you know who the
weird
last
experiments.
president was to have a beard?
Taft. No, it's not
No.
Taft.
Benjamin Harrison.
Look at that.
I didn't
Beard
know
trivia.
Benjamin Harrison was a president until right now.
Yeah,
I assumed
wow.
he was just some donk you went to high school with.
Like, I'm stunned
He
that
was
you
the
didn't know that.
Why don't politicians have beards?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
I get why
after-
they don't have these ne'er-do-well beards like Finkelstein does. But
I mean,
like a
after
nice-
Benjamin Harrison, there were Teddy Roosevelt had a mustache, Taft had a mustache, I think basically after that, I think they all were clean shaven. For some reason, the style hasn't come back for like 100 years. I don't know why.
The golden age of the beard.
There's a golden age of beards?
Oh, yeah.
So there's like this whole beard subculture I know nothing about.
Way back when it was distinguished.
Abe Lincoln was the first one. Then you go, Johnson was clean shaven, Grant had a beard, Rutherford Hayes had a beard, Garfield had a beard, and then Benjamin Harrison. And after that, now there were mustaches intermingled.
How do you know this?
I know all the presidents. I always have.
And their facial hairs?
Yeah.
So you're into all this stuff. Explain this.
I like history.
Explain this convention thing that's going on to me.
That's not history. That's just nonsense going on today. I don't pay attention
I was
to that.
in the bathroom the last night or the night before looking at Twitter, and everybody was talking about the convention. There's that girl, I think she's a congressman. She's kind of hot, but she's crazy.
AOC.
Yeah, whatever she is. And they were all excited about whatever she was doing. So I flipped it on to see if she's still there because, I would. But I didn't get it. It's like they were just it's like a big Zoom call.
Well,
and
yeah.
then they were doing some kind of vote, and everybody was yelling, woo! And they were showing ones from the past, and it would be like 100,000 people crammed in a hockey arena, and they're wearing goofy hats. What's happening there?
I'm not real sure about that. All I know about her is
So you know that William Taft had a beard, but this
Mustache.
you can't explain
No, he didn't.
to.
He had a mustache.
Whatever.
And he weighed 300 pounds. But apparently she got a lot of backlash because it's the Democratic National Convention, supposedly to convince everybody that their candidate is the guy you should vote for, correct?
But didn't they already do all this?
No. This is the Democratic National Convention. Next week, I think, is the Republican National Convention. Then that kind of basically kicks off the official election season to November.
I feel like they've been
Anyway,
yapping about this crap for 2 years.
Well, that's all
now.
they ever talk about anymore is politics
Oh,
on
okay.
any station. But apparently she got on, she only had 60 seconds to speak.
Probably for the best.
Never mentioned Joe Biden one time. She mentioned Bernie Sanders and some other people apparently.
That was that squirrely guy that looks like you that wants to give everybody stuff for free, right?
I don't
I
think he
kinda
looks
dig
like
him.
me. I mean,
Kinda
I
look
am.
like Briggs?
I'm like Cary Grantish handsome, and he looks like he looks like a mad scientist.
If Briggs was like 6 inches shorter, maybe a little less hair, a little squirrelier, and less facial hair, I can see it.
So he looks just like him, basically.
Yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of liking myself to Cary Grant.
I don't think
Right,
that's
Bernie
the case,
Sanders.
though. I mean, you probably look exactly like
I look
Cary
more
Grant.
like Colonel Sanders than Bernie Sanders.
That's
Yep,
true. That's
true.
true. But you look more like Cary Grant does now today in his current state than you did at whatever it is you're picturing. I assume he's dead.
I was going
right?
to say, Cary Grant, I'm pretty sure, is dead.
Right. Then
Yeah,
that's my
but I'm
point.
talking Cary Grant,
That's my point.
1955 circa. All right.
No. Yeah, current day, perhaps
No,
I could give you
you know.
that. You think we should talk
I mean,
about sports?
Cary Grant was so popular that Archie Leach wanted to be Cary Grant.
Who's Archie Leach?
Cary Grant.
Archie,
He used that in a movie, ad-libbing.
So was this some funny old man joke that I didn't get?
I didn't get it either, but
Oh,
that was
okay.
pretty funny.
He actually used that in a movie that wasn't in the script. It says, that Cary Grant, everybody wants to be Cary Grant. Archie Leach wants to be Cary Grant, and his real name was Archie Leach.
Is that kind of like, what's his name from Mary Poppins doing the, was it an anagram of his name?
Dick Van Dyke?
Yeah.
What was the anagram?
I don't remember. I should probably Google
What's
that.
an anagram? When you say it
Okay, like
backwards?
Mr. Mojo Rising in the song L.A. Woman is an anagram of Jim Morrison. You take the letters, move them around, and you can come up with something else.
I have a headache. Should we talk about sports?
Why? I mean, just because you are
They're playing sports
in
now.
waters that's way over your head because it has to do with history or famous people or anything else
All right.
other than sports, you're lost.
So if you're trying to claim intellectual superiority over me by giving me your vast knowledge of presidential facial hair and Cary Grant, I won't suffer this. This
Who was
is
the
nonsense.
8th president of the United States?
I don't
Martin
care.
Van Buren, thank you very much. Okay, see, it's intellectual superiority.
The Dick Van Dyke anagram wasn't that good. It's like Navkid Keed.
Oh, that is bad.
Yeah,
That's not good.
No.
I mean, with Dick Van Dyke, there's not a lot you can do with, I guess.
that's what she said.
He got you
And
there.
he's like 90-some years old, and I'll tell you what, he's still dancing.
He's still alive?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he's in excellent shape, apparently.
Huh.
I mean, if you're still dancing,
You
you'd
were
be
all
ought to
over
be.
that one. Good Lord. All right, sports, Rick. What do we want to talk about? Kick us
Well,
off.
I mean, you're the one that wants to talk about sports. Why don't you tell me, Mr. Flieger?
You
I mean,
what?
I know you're prepared.
I'm going to do something I never do. I'm going to lead
What
off
makes
this show
sense?
with the National Basketball Association. Oh, God, he just made himself laugh again. We'll wait.
Whew, that was a good one.
I need a cricket sound effect. I need to work on that while we wait for
Anyway,
you.
go ahead.
The National
Yeah.
Basketball Association, Rick. I've come to a stunning realization.
And what is that?
I like basketball in the bubble. The bubble is good.
Okay, why? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I just want to know why you do.
We're coming off a day. Now it probably won't happen again. It almost certainly won't. Where both 8 seeds defeated a 1 seed in game 1.
Right.
This doesn't happen in a normal year.
Not in basketball,
Not-
especially.
A home court advantage is so important in the NBA. Essentially, you can write down in any series what happens in the first 6 games of most series. The home team's going to win, and then the 7th game could get interesting. Number one, they're playing no defense whatsoever, which I guess is kind of fun. They shoot so well in these tiny gyms. That seems to make a big difference. But you take out that home court advantage, what you're seeing is individual talent winning out even more than it normally does. What Damian Lillard is doing right now is freaking absurd, and it makes these early round playoff matchups watchable. Now, it's still kind of the same game where, for the most part, we're getting to within 36 feet and just chucking, but at least they're hitting them at a
Right.
pretty good rate when you talk about Lillard. It's better basketball, it seems like. It's more even, and I think you're going to see some good competitive deep series even early on.
Now, let me ask you that, because we've talked about this many times, like in the NHL. I mean, when the normal playoff year comes, we've seen 7s, 8s advance many,
it's
many times.
just an average course of
And,
business.
and home ice really means nothing. Why do you think it's so much more important in basketball? Is it a closer proximity because the arenas are smaller? There's no really any barricade around the fans? Because I mean, hockey rinks are extremely loud, so you
Right.
would think that it wouldn't have that much difference. Or is it just more parity in the NHL than there is in the NBA?
I've never been able to put my finger on it because, in terms of basketball, this isn't even an NBA thing. It's a college thing too.
True.
It's very maybe not to that level, but it's common that a inferior team beats a superior team in the NBA at home. It's almost, like in the NFL when they set the lines, it's an automatic 3 points for the home team when they're setting the line. In the NBA, it's got to be what? 4, 5, 6 points you're giving to the home team. I could never put my finger. That's one thing that always annoyed me with the NBA as the money gets bigger and now there's fans like sitting on the bench. Have you noticed that? Like there'll be 3 fans, then the coach, and then 3 fans, and then the players, and then
Right.
more fans. I never understood that. But you'd think at this level that wouldn't bother them. In the regular season, I get it. You're putting on a show for your fans. The guys on the road most of the time don't care unless it's a
Right.
big game. In the playoffs, I didn't understand. I just don't understand it. I do know it's probably you're more comfortable shooting in your gym, right? It's just kind of
Yeah.
always that way. It's the difference between shooting at your high school or shooting at your hoop. I don't know if that's it. I could never really. I'd like an explanation of that from an NBA player. Why is it so significant?
Or is it something that we saw in the Montreal-Pittsburgh hockey series? I mean, Pittsburgh was definitely just totally flat
Right.
for the entire series. Didn't matter where they were playing. But I see what you're saying. There's no chance in the bubble for the home crowd to, say whoever Milwaukee comes out flat, there's no chance for that crowd to build them back up.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
And I think that's the biggest thing in college football or college basketball.
Right.
I'm sorry. I think that's why you see, other than just the general one and done format and being what it is in the game of basketball, what it is. But you look at a team that can be so dominant, Duke teams of the past, Kentucky teams of the past, so dominant in the regular season. Now you get on a neutral court against equal competition. Most of the time, the fans in a neutral court turn against turn towards the underdog, and you see those teams start to go down. The fans make a big difference, like in Cameron and at Rupp and places like that. I guess that's the case in the NBA. I've got to be honest. I've been to 2 NBA games in my entire life, and they were with bad Cavs team because that's the closest team we have to here is Cleveland, and those weren't – you couldn't get tickets in the LeBron years. These were bad Cavs teams, so there was no energy in the building. In the playoffs, I'm certain there are. That's probably a part of it. You don't have the opportunity to come out flat, which is why this bubble thing's so interesting, right? Nobody has that advantage. You're playing in this tiny little gym. There's no fans. It's just it makes for better basketball. I still don't like the NBA product and what it's becoming, but you see with the emergence of some of these young stars and a lot of bigs, it's working inside a little more. Even Giannis, who hasn't been good in the bubble, but his game, he can step out and hit a three, but that's not his game. Milwaukee works inside out, kind of old school. You're seeing it in Dallas. You're seeing it in different places. And then kind of conversely, you have Portland kind of doing it the new way, right, where it's just Lillard. As soon as he crosses half court, it's going up. They set a stat during – I was paying attention. I'm watching that game last night. They gave a stat where in the bubble he is shooting over 40% from over 30 feet.
Yeah, that's
40%
crazy.
From 30 feet. Presumably with some defense on him. So something like that's cool. I don't like that style of basketball. When a guy gets on that kind of roll, we've seen Steph Curry do it in the past, that's fun. So I don't know if I'm giving bad basketball a pass because I'm so starved for actual competitive sports, and now that we're in the playoffs, it's got my interest. But yesterday I think was a really good day for the NBA.
And you see, like you said, this type of basketball in the bubble, there's no fans, there's no home court advantage. It almost makes you wish that it was more, not, I can't say old school basketball, but some of the rules were a little tighter as far as, the traveling, that kind of thing, and just see what kind of really tight, tough basketball games you could get.
Right.
Because when you have the fans and everything, you have that carnival-type show atmosphere. Let them play. They're running around.
Yeah.
And people. But this stuff, every game means something, and when there's not that big an advantage, you would like to see it really called down the line. Not ticky-tack, obviously, but just the obvious stuff being called and not let go as much.
And you almost wonder, I have long felt as if, and nobody would ever admit it, nor would I expect to, but in any sport, but I think basketball more than any, I think a home crowd can influence an official.
Oh, yeah.
Subconsciously. I officiate, youth games, junior high games, and it can get in your head, right? You make a couple close calls and it goes against you. You're thinking about it the next time you go to blow that whistle. So you kind of take that out of it. Now, I like that argument, except for the fact that at the end of that Portland Lakers game, which obviously came down to the very end, 4 of the 5 guys on the floor for Portland had 5 fouls. In the NBA, this is craziness, right? So, they were even then, oh, God, this is the Lakers, this is LeBron. Similar with Michael Jordan, this is just the way the NBA's been. The star, if you walk past him, that's a foul. They were kind of, for whatever reason, they were going after Dwight Howard early in the game because nobody, I still don't understand why, but everybody hates Dwight Howard, including the officials apparently, and his teammates and the rest of the league. And then it switched to, oh, crap, the Lakers might lose this game. Now every time the ball went inside, but Portland still pulled it off. So that still goes on. I never liked it, but that's part of the NBA. It's just what it is.
It's part of basically every sport,
right.
Really, if you think about it. You can go way back to the Immaculate Reception. The referee came out years later, and they said, well, what do you think? There's no way we're going to reverse this call and
No.
get out of here. So
I got to get out of here alive.
Yeah, exactly.
So you don't have that. So I think you see the games being called more even. And I guess it's just the fans, the energy in an arena makes that much different. You wonder how much just having the glass between them and the nature of the game of hockey, how much all of that matters. It's just sort of background noise, where in basketball, it's right on top of you. It's a smaller surface. I don't honestly know. It's
The fans are more intimate, but I don't know if it's louder. I mean, those hockey arenas, you sometimes, even watching them on TV, you can't even hear the announcers.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, it reverberates throughout the entire arena. So, I mean, I really think that home ice is negated more due to parity than lack of home ice advantage. You know what I mean?
It could be, and I think just the nature of hockey is different, right? I mean,
Right.
when a game can be won 1-0, 2-1 versus 122, you need to score 100 to win.
Right.
Talent tends to win. It's hard to say, but all I'm saying is I think this product's better. I don't know if I'm just more star for it. It might level out. Chances are the Lakers are going to win the next 3 or the next 4.
Yeah.
Milwaukee's going to
same
win the
thing.
next 4,
Right.
and it's going to come down to the Lakers and the Clippers and Milwaukee and Toronto, like we said it was going to back in September, and all of this will have been BS, but we got an hour to kill, and there's not much going on.
It'll be interesting. I like the Milwaukee series because, you look at Milwaukee, obviously they're the favorite. I mean, they're more talented. They've got that, I don't know, like you mentioned, old school, but it's kind of like grinded out,
Right.
beat you type of game. But, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. It's kind of like a hot goalie. You get a hot shooter in basketball. If you just don't kill the guy, he's going to kill you.
And Milwaukee doesn't have any way to counteract that.
Right.
They have to be able to
Do their
beat you
thing,
up
right.
and run everything through Antetokounmpo. You have to be able to
Yeah.
run everything through
Yeah,
him.
him too.
And if you could take him away, we saw it with Toronto last year, going back to the conference finals. If you could take him away for 2 games, you can win a series against them.
And it kind of reminds you, like, all sports are. I mean, that it shows you just how much team sports are. Because if you look, I mean, you just mentioned that you can take him away for a couple of games, you can win a series. That's what Bill Russell did to Wilt Chamberlain.
Right.
And the rest of the Celtics were much better than the Warriors.
Yeah.
And they win. So I mean, it's the better team. Period.
Wow. That was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of NBA talk on It's Just Sports. We don't normally do that.
No, we usually don't. But, we can move. We mentioned the NHL. They're moving in on these weird playoffs. We just saw Tampa Bay eliminate the Blue Jackets, 5-4 in overtime last night. And they won 4-1. Boston's leading, who is it? Oh, Carolina. Colorado's leading the Coyotes, and the Flyers are leading the Canadians. All the lower seeds, or the better seeds, are winning in hockey.
Yeah,
which is something you don't normally see.
That's interesting, except for the Capitals, right? Being down to the Islanders. The Capitals is that a 3-6
Oh, that's true.
matchup,
Yeah,
I
they
believe?
play tomorrow night, and the Islanders leading them 3-1.
And they were up 2-0 after one last night. I thought it was flat over.
Yeah, and then there's Dallas and the Flames. They're 3-2 Dallas right now. So, yeah, I mean, really, the only
That and the St. Louis series.
the
are
St.
only
Louis
ones
and the
that
Canucks are 2-2,
that are
right?
even a series, which is strange. I'm surprised by that. You'd think a lot of these would be more. We're seeing all kinds of weird stuff, right? Like Tuukka Rask just up and leaves Boston, and they keep winning. I thought they were done at that point. Carolina looked so good.
And it's kind of interesting how you start something and then quit. I mean, I'm kind of baffled by that, to be honest with you. I can see if he opted out at the beginning, fine, not a problem, or whatever. But how do you start an NHL playoff and then say, I'm done. I'm afraid of getting sick?
Yeah, it's interesting. This has kind of fallen under how kind of everything in this world does right now in this social media cesspool we live in, and especially in this coronavirus time, where there's two very distinct camps on this Tuukka Rask thing. Either he quit on his team, he's a loser, he's a putz, he's a ne'er-do-well, and then there's the, well, yeah, family comes first and good for him. Finally, a pro athlete puts his family first. I don't know where I fall on it.
But that's the thing. I don't think either one of us fall either way. My question is, like, if your family is so important, why didn't you opt out to start with? And you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, yeah, let's go. And then, I don't know.
Well, this is where
I'm just kind of baffled by the whole thing. I would like to know why. What was it that said you can start these playoffs, but now all of a sudden, after game X, I'm done? I mean, there has to be something that either happened or just a mindset or somebody, his wife, somebody influenced him.
That's what I think it is, and this is where I'm torn, because I get it, right? I have to assume. He said, I'm going to do this. He talked it over with the wife and the kid. I don't know if his kids are old enough to talk it over with. It doesn't matter. But he talked it over with his family and said, we're going to do this, right? It's only a couple of months. This is a big deal. This is what I do for a living. We're going to do this.
It is the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and now he's been in this bubble for what? Well, they've been there about a month now, right? With the lead-up games and the practices and everything. He decides, I get as a human being, he just, I can't take this anymore. I miss my kids. I miss my wife. I can't take it. But in the mindset of a professional athlete and what, especially in hockey, what the Stanley Cup means, that's where this becomes a stunner to me. And you could convince me either way. I can't take a firm position on this. My default knee-jerk reaction is you don't quit on your team. You can't do this. This is, you signed up to do it. You are the key player for this team.
Right.
And you just one day kind of out of the blue throw your hands up and say, I can't take it anymore, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
That's awful. But assuming the reason is I gave it a shot, I can't be away from my family, I guess there's a nobility in that. I'm not a good enough person to ever come to that conclusion.
I like to know what prompted the decision. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's Tuukka Rask. It's not Bob Anderson, the third-string winger or whatever that plays once every 5 years. It's Tuukka Rask and, like you said, the guy on the team. Let's go get him. Yeah, I think I'm done, fellas.
Well, I think it's it's family pressure. I'm assuming. I don't know.
But if it's I get it. I understand, but that's... I guess that's probably why I'm looking for some sort of explanation. He owes me nothing, obviously, we know. But you would think if it was family pressure, it would have influenced him before the playoffs started.
You would think.
That's my only thing there.
What the story I've told myself in my head, he got there, he gave it a shot, it was driving him nuts, it was making him miserable, and maybe something's going on at home.
Right,
I don't know.
Who knows?
But my default is you don't quit on your team. My default is that. But it's the Bruins. I don't like the Bruins, so good. I hope it knocks them out. You know one thing I discovered, though? I wish Brad Marchand wasn't such a dick. He is a good hockey player.
Oh, you just figured that out.
It's hard to see. I knew that, but it was kind of hard to see through it because he's always licking people and doing stupid stuff. And I want to hit him with a truck. But that was pretty subtle.
That was great.
This is Rick tipping 2 beers.
Oh, like
at once,
you've never bashed a microphone.
I don't think
before.
that level.
I think you have.
It sounded like a gong, is what it sounded like.
But yeah,
he is so good, and it gets lost in all the nonsense that is Brad Marchand. First of all, he looks like a weasel, but literally and figuratively, that doesn't help him.
He's weaselly like Darius Kasparaitis.
Yeah.
You just if he was not on your team, you hated him. Now, when he became a Penguin, we loved him.
Right, absolutely.
But of course, it was...
He scores, that triple overtime goal against Buffalo.
Exactly,
I still remember that one, yeah.
But, yeah, you're right. And there's something about him that kind of takes away from how good he is. I mean, you've seen, like you said, the Dicks, the Kasparaitis, the Ty Domies, some of these guys over the years, but not with the outright talent that Marchand has.
Just it. I mean, this could be...
It's kind of like Gretzky being a dick. A little bit less, obviously.
But I mean, this is probably I don't know. I don't watch enough. A top 10 to 15 star in this league from a skill perspective. But everybody just has a visceral reaction because he's licking people and cheap shot, just nonsense all the time. And I wish he would stop it because really, what a great player. And it really dawned on me watching a couple of games. I'm paying much more attention this year again because there's nothing else going on. And it's just the skill, and he's involved in everything that happens for Boston. He's involved, and it's just – but still my first thought, I'm rooting against the guy, but he's so good. His game is beautiful. I mean, he should be – we should talk about him amongst the top 6 or 7 forwards in this game, and you don't. You just talk about him licking people. And in the times of Corona, you certainly can't lick people now. Imagine if he did it in a game now.
You don't need to be licking people, Dory. You're right,
Imagine
exactly.
during Corona, if he licks somebody, they might throw him in jail.
I know. I tell you what, though, you look at – I don't know if you saw much of the series. I saw 2 or 3 games of the Tampa-Columbus series.
You know, I didn't watch 1 minute of any of that.
Getting through the Blue Jackets, I tell you what, Tampa, that's a dangerous team. And
Tampa should be going for their 3rd Stanley Cup.
Oh, they should
now,
be.
From a talent perspective.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And if they're not – I mean, if they just don't continue to roll, I'm going to be shocked, quite frankly. Especially with Rask gone for Boston. Who else in the East? I mean, the Islanders already they're not done yet, but I mean, I'm not thinking the Caps are going to win 3 in a row against the Isles.
I wouldn't think.
You know, I mean, talent-wise, Tampa's better than New York. They're better than Philly. They're better than Boston, I think, now without Rask anyway. But, I mean, that's certainly the closest caliber you have in the East. I tell you what, I don't really know anybody other than the Blues.
Right.
I mean, there's nobody I want to roll the dice for other than Tampa.
Vegas looks really good again.
They do look really good.
They're fun to watch. They play a fun brand of hockey. But I have to wonder. I'm looking back on what happened with the Penguins. You know, we touched on that plenty we tried, and something else was going on. Remember, we tried to talk about the Penguins for a while. And now you're seeing with the Caps.
No, we did talk about them. They were flat, and they looked horrifying.
Well, what was going on? Remember, there was crazy.
Something happened, then Briggs threw the papers on the ground.
Shocker.
We
Briggs
got
and had a big
derailed
fit in the middle of
hardcore.
a segment.
I don't think I derailed the story, or I wouldn't have thrown the papers on the ground. I think Mr. Fligger derailed the story.
It's always my fault. Anyhow, back to my point.
You have to go back to the
again.
control room, Alejandro, and roll those tapes back.
Yes, we still do this on reel-to-reel.
Of course.
So, anyhow, I look at Washington. It's kind of the same situation, completely flat. I always wonder, these old veteran teams who have won consistently over time are just having a hard time caring about this bubble thing. I almost wonder that.
I'm still kind of baffled that Pittsburgh and now you see like Washington, how any of these teams can come out flat. This is basically a brand new season, and you're already just starting for the Cup. I mean, that should excite even a 38-year-old, 20-year vet.
You would think so, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
It doesn't seem to be the case. You're right.
It's really, really odd. So, what can we do?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to switch gears to the NFL, but before we do that, I want to talk about mybookie.ag. You know, sports are in full swing. We want to help you take advantage of those sports investments when getting in on the action. 12 Ounce Sports has officially partnered with mybookie.ag to give you the best deal possible. When you sign up on mybookie.ag, they'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. Yep, that's $1,000. When you punch in the promo code 12OZ Sports, just get that money, man. It's 12 Ounce Sports, 12OZ Sports, when signing up on mybookie.ag, not .com, .ag, to get your deposit matched up to $1,000.
Hell yeah.
Make that cash. I used to have a straight cash homie button. What happened to that one?
I don't know, but I kind of...
Hell yeah.
I like the hell yeah.
I miss Marshawn.
It'll be, about week 3, we'll start hearing the rumors. He's coming out of retirement again.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do
Somebody
this
will want him.
2038.
Yeah.
Somebody should just give him a broadcasting job, from a booth.
I'd watch that.
Like HBO should broadcast games. That way, like,
He would
just
be the next
unfiltered.
Booger. They'd have him floating around on some crane. Hell yeah!
I'm all about that action, boss.
I'm just about that action, boss.
Exactly. You know, there's a lot of talk out there. They've broken off talks, Minnesota and Dalvin Cook. He's not a happy camper, Rick. He's still
what you
reportedly
did there.
planning
He's at
on
camp.
playing. Huh?
I get what you did there. He's still at camp, not a happy camper.
Exactly.
You're clever.
I
You're
know.
a clever one, Rick.
Thank
Briggs.
you.
He's like 2 for 2 in those today.
But
He is.
apparently, Dalvin Cook is reportedly considering holding out before arriving at training camp. This is weird. He remains at practice and is planning to be on the field for week 1 despite lack of progress on a new deal. So he's going to hold out with camp, but he wants to play in week 1.
Apparently, there's a new term for that. It's not holding out, it's holding in. They go to camp, they stand there, they don't do anything. When the coach calls them in to go to do plays, they go to the bike. Holding in.
Holding in.
See, I don't like that.
Because if they held out, it's like, I think, $50,000 a day that they're fined.
So you come in and show no respect to your coach or your teammates. Got it.
Holding in.
Holding
Hashtag.
in.
Holding in.
Yeah, hashtag holding in. We should hold in until Briggs gets his stuff together.
I think if you hold in too long, you have to go see a doctor.
I know I would.
Gross.
You finally got that. All right. But okay, he was drafted the same year Christian McCaffrey was, and McCaffrey obviously got the big extension. So I got to thinking, what type of leverage does he have going into it with negotiations with the Vikings? And so I pulled up McCaffrey stats and I pulled up Cook stats. You know, they both 2017 through 19. And McCaffrey had, just last year alone, had 2,392 total yards and 19 touchdowns. That's pretty significant. That'll
not
give you
bad.
some leverage for
I'm
an
giving
extension.
to understand those are good statistics.
Yes, they are. Cook, on the other hand, had 1,600 and roughly 50 yards and 13 touchdowns. Nice year. Where does that give you any advantage? Are you? Of course, I guess it depends on what you're demanding and so
Right.
forth. But if you're Minnesota, you go, okay, we've got a 1,500-yard guy, double-digit touchdowns. You look at what McCaffrey did, you almost have to look at regression from McCaffrey. The Panthers aren't that good, and I tell you what, 19 touchdowns, that's a lot of touchdowns and 2,300 total yards.
It's going to be hard to repeat.
It's going to be awful hard to repeat. So what? If you're the GM of Minnesota, are you looking at 75% of McCaffrey money? You looking at 70%? Are you looking at the hell with it? I'll wait till see what this year brings. What?
It's kind of that last one. Here's the problem. Here's the deal. All right. McCaffrey's kind of out on his own island. I'm negotiating with Dalvin Cook. We're not talking about Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey has some built-in advantages that neither Dalvin Cook nor most, if any, other back in the league has. Mainly being he is the sole focus of the Carolina Panthers offense. And especially going into this year. Now you run your quarterback out. You bring in Teddy Bridgewater, a nice piece but not a world beater. You have a bunch of wide receivers that all the fantasy guys like to pull it over their head for every spring, but end up being the same kind of guy.
How much of a downgrade from the current Cam Newton do you think Teddy Bridgewater is?
I don't know who the current Cam Newton is.
Well, what we saw last year, let's put it that
Probably
way.
a straight line. Probably a straight line, which again means everything.
Christian McCaffrey's not going down much.
Everything's running through Christian McCaffrey. Because we saw as the year progressed, everybody knew everything was running through Christian McCaffrey. Everybody stacked everything up against Christian McCaffrey, and he still put up those numbers you mentioned. So we're not – I'm the GM of the Vikings. We're not talking about Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
Here's who we're talking about. Dalvin Cook's a great running back. He's probably one of the 5 best running backs not named Christian McCaffrey in the league right now. But here's who we're talking. We're talking about Todd Gurley. All right, Todd Gurley got his, and look what happened. We're talking about Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell got his, and look what happened. This is what happens with running back. This may be what happens with Christian McCaffrey. I doubt it because he is such the focal point. But I've got huge money wrapped up in Kirk Cousins. I've got good money wrapped up and have a good wide receiver core. I've got 2 really good tight ends. I've built a complete offense. I don't need Christian McCaffrey. So even if Dalvin Cook is physically able to produce like Christian McCaffrey is, he may be able to. I'm not going to use him like that, so I'm not paying him like that. So now we're talking traditional, really good pass-catching running back money. Now here we go, Todd Gurley. Here we go, Le'Veon
You know
Bell.
who he reminds me of? Melvin Gordon.
Could be. Well, I'm not making that mistake again.
Right.
Dalvin Cook
I agree.
Dalvin Cook is great. Todd Gurley, it was going that way anyhow. Todd Gurley has ruined this for everybody, for running backs going forward. There is the sense, and for good reason, I still tend to resist this, but there is the sense amongst fans and the league that good running backs are pretty much plug and play. I could pay you $13 million a year, or I could draft a guy in the 4th round next year who can produce at 90% of that worst case scenario and better than that best case scenario. And when he wants paid, I'll put the boots to him and I'll bring in the next guy. So unfortunately, Christian McCaffrey's just kind of a different thing. It's the right guy with the right skill set in the right situation. Dalvin Cook isn't in that situation. With the money they have wrapped up in Kirk Cousins in that passing game and with that coaching staff, Dalvin Cook, even if capable, and he may be, he ain't going to do it. It ain't going to happen.
You're right. I agree 100%. And even with the exit of Stephon Diggs, you still have Adam Thielen. You still have Dalvin Cook to throw to.
Right.
You have Kyle Rudolph. And you know, they have, like you said, a nice, decent core of wide receivers. So I agree with you. There's not any real leverage. He has some leverage in the fact, okay, we are going to pay you if you stay healthy until what? After your 5th-year deal, right?
Right.
But we're going to pay you accordingly after 5 years of stats. And it will be as it may where we are financially or close to Super Bowl contention. If in 2 more years after his option year, they've lost X amount of players and they're looking at a 6-10 season while they rebuild, see ya.
Yeah. And even so, you brought up Melvin Gordon, right?
Right.
He, I guess, overplayed his hand, right? Zeke Elliott's the other example kind of on the Christian McCaffrey. That offense was built around Zeke Elliott. The offense is built around Christian McCaffrey. I agree with you. I think he falls more in the Melvin Gordon where the Chargers just let him ride till he had to come back in. And then Hasta La Vista, and now we're talking about Austin Eckler is the next top 10 running back. Who's kind of getting into
and that's
fantasy
what will happen.
talk,
Everybody's already talking about Madison.
Right.
You know, let's bring him in.
And
Dalvin Cook's
really
unhappy. Well. You know, and he can't afford to hold out, kind of like Melvin Gordon. He needs that seniority year.
Yeah.
Or you lose everything in your rookie deal. So
Hold in.
What?
Yeah.
Hold in.
And for his purposes, I don't begrudge anybody holding out, holding in, holding under, holding up. I don't care what they hold, whatever you want. Show up on week 1, do the damn thing, and get paid. It's unfortunate. I think the running back is unfairly devalued, but it is. It's just that.
And I think they're more devalued because of, and maybe it's just in my head, but I don't know. It seems like there's so many more torn ACLs.
Oh, absolutely.
And Achilles and so forth when it comes to running backs than in years past. I don't know if it's because of these, I don't know, you almost call them computerized training regimens. These guys are so muscular and so strong.
Oh, they're tighter than snare drums.
Well,
every one
and that's
of
the thing. And I think we talked about this on a fantasy show years back. There was some doctor that was talking about that. These muscles in a lot of these players are so big. We see that, like in the Franco Harrises, whatever, the Earl Campbells and so forth. They were big, muscular guys, but now these muscles, because of all these enhanced training regimens, the computerized, everything is just focused on building these muscles. He says the muscles are so big. He says, but tendons don't grow.
Right, exactly.
And they can only hold so much. And when they go, buddy, they're gone. And I think that's why we see so many. We've already seen some of these ACLs torn just in these training camps.
And
they're running around for crying out loud.
It's going to, they just put on pads 2
Yeah.
days ago.
It's crazy.
And not even all of them. So, all right, Rick, I've been avoiding this because, as you saw today, I came into the studio in a great mood. I was happy. I was jovial, excited, happy to see my buddies and have a spirited sports debate. I was ready to go.
How can you sit there in good conscience and lie?
This is the truth.
And lie. You came
I
in.
basically did
You
a
came
cartwheel
down. You
into the
came.
studio.
You came into the studio, insulted your daughter, and kicked her out.
She was in my seat.
We were having a great conversation, probably for 20 minutes before you got here.
I'm sure it was a brilliant conversation.
Ask her. It was. Alejandro's gone.
Of course, he's gone to get beer. He's out of the studio.
Yeah,
again.
he's
can't
gone.
make it an hour.
I mean, he's a producer, and all he does is get beer. But
Well, he's producing you beer, I guess.
yeah, he is producing.
In his defense.
But thank you, sir. But you must admit, Alejandro, we were having a nice conversation with his daughter for 15, 20 minutes, correct?
Fair. I mean, it was about TikTok, so.
Yeah, come on.
We were talking about other things too, different types of voices on podcasts, correct?
No, not this ASMR stuff.
Well, it doesn't matter if you agree with her. We were having a nice conversation.
It was
He came to the
intellectual.
studio, insulted her, and kicked her out.
don't
Am
think
I not correct?
I don't think I insulted
Am
her.
I
just
not
told her to
correct?
beat cheeks. That's all I did.
Is this going where I think it's going to go?
Yes. Yeah.
So, on that note, let's put the women and children to bed and go looking for dinner. Mr. Flieger,
Oh, you want me to start yelling?
do it up.
All right. So let's talk about it. Everybody's been talking about I feel like we talk about this about every 4 or 5 shows anymore. The unwritten rules of baseball. I don't have to go through the whole scenario, but Fernando Tatis the other night, up 7, 8th inning, bases loaded, 3-0, gets grooved a fastball and jacks it out. The Rangers manager loses his mind. The Rangers pitcher throws behind Machado the next at bat. More stunningly, this guy's own manager in the dugout on the field in front of everybody calls him out, and then calls him out again later in the media to the point where Fernando Tatis is doing some insincere apology video after the game. First of all, I didn't know if you were up big and the bases were loaded and it was a 3-0 count, you weren't allowed to swing. I didn't know this was a thing. This is the most absurd. Oh.
This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game.
Hell
Exactly.
Yeah, where'd it go? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, that's what you do. I don't understand. When did this become a thing?
I don't know. I never knew it was.
You tried to defend this, right? You said you used to do this when you played in.
When you played in little kiwi things in your diapers and didn't want anybody to hurt their feelings.
Right.
These guys are millionaires. And you know what? What I would have loved to seen is him to take that pitch, end up striking out. They get out of the inning, and then the next inning, the Rangers come back and score 8. I would have loved to have seen that, and then they would have been high-fiving each other for the great comeback. Yet when they get their ass kicked, they're crying like little babies.
Well, and that's what have none of these managers, these stupid managers, noticed how bad all of their own bullpens are? Have we noticed how pathetic the last 2 or 3 years
stink.
every bullpen is, and yet we go to the bullpen in the 4th inning of every damn game? I don't think a 7-run lead in the 8th, especially with the Padres bullpen, is a safe lead. Number 2, from a practical standpoint.
How much better is a Padres bullpen than Pittsburgh Pirates?
The Pittsburgh,
maybe 5%.
I don't
10%.
think it is better. I think they're both absolutely.
Yeah,
and even
they are.
good
They're
teams.
terrible.
Look at how bad the Nationals bullpen was last year, and they won the damn World Series. It was the story of the league how bad their bullpen is. Meaning no lead is safe. But then let's even say that's safe. Let's look at this from a practical standpoint. More than any other sport, what is the singular most important thing in baseball and in the history of baseball? I'll answer
Winning
that
the
for
World
you, Rick.
Series.
No.
Oh, it's not.
It's the numbers. The numbers are all that matters. How often do you get a chance to hit a grand slam? How much is a couple of grand slams a year worth to you in your next contract? And in the context of the history of the game, really, how important is these? You are skewing the numbers. Everybody's bitching and carrying on about, we got to put an asterisk on this year. And everybody's falling down through their assholes and hanging themselves over the Astros stealing signs because it threw off the numbers and it wrecked the
and how many
game.
times has he told me that I can't use certain words?
Well, we did preface this with put the women and
He
children
said
to bed.
put the women and children to bed, so I had carte blanche to do this.
blanche!
I'm all for it.
I'm smart. I knew it. I knew it would get him.
Multi-syllables.
So all of all.
But what did that remind you of? What did that remind you of? It didn't remind him of anything. But I'm smart. What did that remind you of? Fredo
Oh, yeah.
from The Godfather. I'm smart.
I'll have you know.
I
that's
need
where-
some respect.
I'm
smart. I can handle
Will you
things.
listen? Damn it.
One of three.
I'll have you know that's where I got it from. Not from watching the movie. A podcast I like to listen to plays that drop, and that's where I got it. They have it in their replay machine. What was I talking about?
Seriously,
Carte blanche.
yeah, seriously, before we get to carte blanche, seriously, take drink 4 beers and calm down and sit and watch The Godfather.
Isn't it like 4 hours long?
No, it's like 2.5, something like that. If you watch it and never, without commercial, you will thoroughly enjoy it. Am I not correct, Alejandro?
I agree, but I think it's more than 2.5.
It might be 3.
It's pretty close to 3, I think.
That's a long time.
I know, but if
That's
you
a
got a few
big
beers in you
commitment.
and continue to drink while you watch, you'll enjoy it.
But then I'm
Trust
not going to
me.
remember the end.
It's okay. Then you can watch the end, like the last half hour, and say, "Oh yeah, I remember that," and then you just pick it up and you're done.
That sounds exhausting. Meanwhile, I can pop in Friday, knock it out in an hour and 20, laugh, and have
But
a
it's
good
not
time.
the same thing.
Yeah, Friday's better.
No, really, no, it's not.
Yeah, I think it is.
Trust me.
I think it
Trust
is.
me. I've never steered you wrong.
It's all you've ever done.
I've never
Hey,
steered
Rick,
you
let's
wrong.
start a podcast. Great idea.
Who
Never steer me
Who
wrong.
actually walked with your dead ass for 6 blocks to get a Pepsi in Atlantic City because where we were, you could only buy Coca-Cola?
I don't
Rick,
even remember that.
Your boy
It sounds
Rick.
like something I do.
And I stuck with you. I said, well, let's go get some Pepsi,
Oh, I'm
Rick.
sure that's how it went. Yeah.
Speaking of sticking with somebody, what's his face that came up after Tatis?
Manny Machado.
Yeah. He got
Did you
thrown
see?
behind.
Did you see him looking at the Rangers dugout? Yeah, we'll talk to him.
Well, that's what bothered me is the Padres turned on Tatis and all this as well. So,
That is malarkey.
What is it with sports today? And I know they're all rich and there's so much trading and moving between teams. It's not like 40, 50 years ago where you have these teams that stay together forever. But why is it that all these teams seem to like the other team as good as their own team?
I think that's just
it's
what it is.
ludicrous.
It's
no,
a-
you hate them.
It's a millionaires club now. It really
That's,
is.
But it's,
And free agency, I think, changed. They all know each other. I think.
I don't care.
I can't speak to it in baseball, but in basketball, all these good players have been playing together since junior high with these national
But if
AAU
you-
teams. They're
but-
all friends.
But
now.
that's the point, though, Rick. He hits a grand slam, but the pitcher all of a sudden is thrown behind him.
It wasn't even the pitcher that gave up the grand slam.
Yeah,
Next guy up.
right. But yeah, exactly. But he's thrown behind him like, they're so angry and evil. But then the other team turns. I mean, it makes no sense.
Speaking of unwritten rules, there's a dumb one. I didn't throw that grand slam groove, which actually it was low and outside, but not important. So next pitcher in goes, I got to throw at the next guy. Like, it's stupid. What does that do? What?
That's really not an unwritten rule. That used to be actually certain pitchers. If you got a hit off of them or a home run, whatever the case may be, the next time you were up, yeah, maybe you get brushed back, something like that. But this whole idea of somebody hitting a home run and the next guy up, they throw at them, that's stupid.
What you're going for is different. Like, they're throwing behind them. Like the Mike Trout thing that we talked about earlier. They threw at his head. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Would you say Bob Gibson, you throw him high and inside?
Yeah.
I get that. I get
Sure.
that. Like, get off the plate. That's mine.
But Bob Gibson, it was like if you got a hit, or say you hit a home run, the next time you were up,
right.
Bob Gibson brushed you back. He didn't brush back Rick because he was the next batter up. That
Right.
wasn't. See, that's the whole thing. It makes no sense. It's kind of like, okay, it's almost like token resistance. I'm going to throw behind you.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
And we're really angry, but hell, we're going to hug at the end of the game
Rabble,
anyway.
rabble.
Exactly.
So, but I think the one thing people aren't talking about, and we've only got a couple minutes here, we probably should have brought this up earlier, but the one thing people aren't talking about, hitting a baseball for a professional hitter, even one as great as Tatis, is a very finicky thing. And what I would worry about if I'm him and why I think this thing is stupid. So he takes that 3-0 count. I can understand, first of all, I want to say I can understand his manager being upset because they gave him the take sign and he ignored that. That you can give him heck for in the clubhouse later.
Right.
All right. But
yeah, in the clubhouse
Right.
later.
Yeah.
Not publicly.
No,
that's bold.
Yeah, that's craziness. But think about this. So he takes that 3-0 pitch. He takes the 3-1 pitch. He fouls one off, then he strikes out.
Right.
As finicky as hitting major league pitching is, that could start a 15-game slump.
Sure.
Whereas hitting that grand slam, he's been on a heater. I think it was at his 7th home run since they started back up, something crazy like that. So you give up these opportunities. How often are you going? First of all, why even going back to, we were talking about this before the show, why back in Little League were we taking 3-0 pitches? That's the best pitch you're going to see more than
They're going
likely.
to try to throw a strike.
The entire game. So that I know, but that's a whole different conversation. He lets that opportunity pass. He strikes out there. This could conceivably start a slump. These guys are so superstitious. That's such a big part of hitting a baseball. It's ludicrous to pass up that
And
opportunity.
I'm sorry with the
and I don't care what the score. I can see don't steal bases up big, all that kind of stuff. Stand there with the bat on your shoulder, nonsense. I'm not doing it.
And with the pitching staffs of today,
Oh, yeah.
no, 7-1 isn't safe.
Well,
I
and
don't care what team you are. It's not safe anymore.
Well, don't forget the big news. Then the next day they got up 6-0 early. He stole third, and this was still early in the game. And Twitter blows up. Oh God, he's doing it again. The next thing that flashed up, it was 6-3. Texas hit a 3-1 homer, and it was a game again.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have to. You also have to take things into perspective. There's 30 teams in baseball now.
Right.
You go back 50 years ago, there was 20. Now you have the same amount of players, condensed on 20 teams. I mean, I'm not saying the players were so much better back then, but the teams were concentrated more talent.
Oh, absolutely.
These pitching staffs are so suspect anymore, and these guys, the balls are jacked. These guys can hit it out just about any time they want to. Not any time they want to, but you make good wood on the ball, it's gone.
Right, absolutely.
And these leads aren't safe. I don't buy any of this crap. If you're up 12-0, go for 15. Who cares?
Yeah.
You play to win the game.
We'll end on that.
But while we're ending, I want you guys to think going into next week, because it's going to be very difficult, especially for baseball. A Mount Rushmore of baseball players.
Oh, and I forgot what I wanted to yell
Who
about.
do
Remind
you
me.
eliminate to put on Mount Rushmore?
On it.
Go ahead, get us out of here.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We didn't get to half of what we wanted. We will be back next week to catch up on that and everything else. Check Check it out at Asylum Football on Twitter, at 12OZ Sports on Twitter. Until next time, well, you just messed up the music there. We'll see you.
Take care.
Play to win
the
the
game.
game.